welcome to Synergy.
Welcome to Synergy, everybody. I was just going to catch you, Isabel, and say that I thought it would be cool. You mentioned something earlier today offline,
Mhm.
and I was thinking, well, this would be episode 18, but how wouldn't it be cool to go season 2, episode 1?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right here,
Right
live.
now. Season 2, we're making it happen. I love it. That's awesome, Win.
I think, well, yeah, and I think we should explore a lot. And I think actually, and it's funny because the word that was up to me, and the last few episodes, if listeners wouldn't know, maybe unless they've been trying to keep up with us, is that it's almost like we take a week in between. So we've been going bi-monthly instead of every week.
Yeah, that's true.
A few episodes.
That's right.
And I was today, you presented that to me along with what should we do about our podcast? Should we keep it rolling? Should we go season 2, episode 1? And I was at work and I do landscaping, and I'm actually a little under the weather today. And I think the landscaping and the direct sun and the humidity perpetually just like taking a beating on me. So I wasn't really able to be super present with that conversation that we're trying to have, but I wanted to be as present as I could. And about 2 weeks ago was the last time we recorded, and it was my turn to come up with a word. And I don't know, sometime after that, but it's been a few days, at least a week, since I told you I had a word in mind.
Yes.
And for some reason, that word doesn't want to stick.
Huh. Interesting. I like where it's going.
Do you remember the word, though, that I had said I thought it would be?
Yeah. I think it was peace. Was it peace?
It was.
Yeah. I try not to pay attention to like too much because I don't want to, the logic mind to step in.
Right. So then and I know that a couple of times we've had it where like we knew each other's words, or I knew your word, or however it went. I don't recall right now. But did you ever have an inkling as to what my word would be before that or after that?
When you said peace, it did surprise me. So I don't know if it's still the word that you picked. But I don't know. I did talk about resistance, which is weird that I picked that word earlier today when I was chatting with you, because that's not what I was feeling. It was more like flow, like being in the flow and things like that. So I didn't know what was the right word, but yeah, no, I'm not picking up on anything else.
Well, excuse my poor, probably French, but when you said resistance today, I was thinking all that ran through me was
Vive
la resistance.
That's so funny. That would be it. Oh, that's so funny. I see the bumper sticker once in a while.
Okay, well, I was like, how would I write that back? And you hear the French accent, you wouldn't. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. But I was like, oh, that was funny. That ran.
No, I would have gotten it if you said it. Definitely. I love it.
And I was like, where have I heard that in a movie before? And I was like, holy crap, the South Park movie. A long time ago, the South Park movie came on. I don't even remember what year, but yeah, when the South Park movie came out, it was all about that. And I think it was Cartman, the heavier set character, who's always like obnoxious, and I think it was him who said, "Vive la resistance."
I love it. He is so obnoxious. Oh my god. So is your word still peace?
Well, okay, you said earlier, just a minute ago, you were talking about, just being in the flow.
Yeah.
Well, the thing was, I meditated a little bit ago when I got home. I showered, and I'm not feeling well, and I sat in this meditation that just felt like it was going nowhere. And I just kept trying to meditate on the word, and like an enormous amount of words were like running through my system. I'm like, what the fuck? What word? Like, come on, universe. And all of them had like equal force behind them. And then I was like, well, I'll just go back to peace, right? And they all had equal force and equal almost neutrality. It was like really bizarre. So I said, well, what am I going to do for a word? And it was like, throw all the words into the mix, like I'm throwing dice in, and let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And maybe by the end of the episode, we'll have a word.
Yeah. I love that. Funny, let's talk about all the words.
Let's do it. We'll just splatter them out there.
That's funny. I kind
So
of, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you
No,
go
no,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, all right. So the words that ran through me, peace was obviously there.
Yeah.
Compassion was there. But then so was guru. So was yoga. So was yogi.
Uh-huh.
Light body or light beings, and star seeds, and then a couple others. But those were the main ones that ran through. There's got to be a commonality between all those words.
Yeah. You know what's coming in my head right now? And that's because you said like yoga, and did you say meditation too? Because it popped in my head.
Me
Um,
too, but no, I didn't say it. Or maybe we did. We'll hear
maybe
later.
we're still doing the telepathic communication here. But in French, and I think it's the same word in English, it's called altruism. So altruism,
Altruism. Mm-hmm.
does that resonate?
Altruism. I not for picking a word right now. I say we go to the podcast and see. But
Yeah.
what does it altruism mean in French?
Well,
Or however you pronounce it.
altruism is a combination of compassion and empathy, but it's being connected to others. So, and it's connected to the energy, connected to, like, it's that spiritual connection, like the cords that we connect with others in that sense. So it's being capable of having someone in your space and they leave better than what they were when they came in your space. So, and that's
It's probably very similar. I mean, like I remember that, like the first time altruism or altruistic was a word that I had to work with outside of just communication was when I was finishing my bachelor's degree, and the teachers wanted us to look at whether altruism exists in capitalism.
oh, interesting.
So
No,
like
because it's materialistic.
At the time of this, Walmart hadn't yet been I don't think they had yet been pinned for sweatshops. So at the time, though, they had done like a bunch of stuff that was like helping third world countries, and then the professor was using them as one of many examples. Like, is it altruistic, or is it a way to say, like, look, we're being philanthropic, so we, give us more money. So, was there an altruistic sense to it? And the argument that I think I made was like, doesn't really matter, because either way, if people are benefiting, then what? Who cares what? Because if you sit there and chase the intention, I don't think even in the spiritual world you'll ever find an altruistic background to it, because I haven't yet found, when we talk about gurus, let's talk about gurus. That's one of the words that I threw out there. Or yogis, right? When you talk about like Osho or Muji or Eckhart Tolle, I'll leave the Dalai Lama out of this, and I think the Dalai Lama is probably altruistic. I mean, it's just a sense. But let's throw out the other three that I just said: Muji, Eckhart Tolle, and Osho. Were they altruistic in their endeavors? And Marianne Williamson and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, all these people who are considered like big name, well known spiritual teachers and gurus, are they altruistic, or are they trying to make a dime off of what they've embedded within themselves?
Right, exactly. And it's hard to tell because I never met any one of them. And altruism for me is being in the same space as the other person. I would be curious for individuals who were in the same space as them. What do you think if it was altruistic?
What's the question? I didn't hear you.
Oh, I thought you said like, were they altruistic like people? And what I'm saying is I don't know. Some I would say no, but honest, it wouldn't be an honest answer because I've never been in their physical space. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, or does it start off altruistic and then does it develop into something that now we're like a popular pop star, essentially,
yeah,
you know, and I can do whatever I want. You know, I guarantee you Marianne Williamson is that one.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean 100% because she shot herself in the foot publicly by running for Congress, and when she didn't get it, she blamed the Republicans for being a bunch of bastards, and it was their fault that she didn't get picked up as a liberal congressman. That's not there's no altruism in that. I think she dined herself out.
Right.
But you know, uh, so there's I mean there's altruistic. I'm really in kind of this like all over the place mode right now, like my hair. So altruism was a good start that for you to throw out there. But then how does so we went into like guru and yogi a little bit, but how about why
Yeah.
did words like yoga
Yeah.
and star seed, light body and light being come through me and peace? What do those have to do?
So I'm not familiar with starseeds, light body, and light being. Well,
Okay.
maybe I know what you mean, but I don't know.
Mm.
Um, but for yoga, I think the connection for me with yoga and peace is like that's kind of the goal. I've experienced yoga in India and I've experienced yoga in Canada and in the US, and it's a complete different state. And now when I do yoga, I do it alone normally. Like I do it in my own space and practice because
Mm-hmm.
that's where I find peace. I don't find anything peaceful about doing hot yoga or being like cramped next to someone or moving into like I don't know. For me, it's a connection of breathing with movement of the body that brings like peace within. So I can relate to that.
Mm.
But I'm sure some people who do hot yoga or power yoga, although if it's a good power yoga in the sense that has like the traditional breathing aspect to it, I think you can get into it. But it really depends on the teacher. Yeah.
Hmm. Cool. I like that you didn't really try to talk it into altruism, just kind of what does it invoke in you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
I,
definitely a state of peace.
okay.
Because
I wonder, like for you then, maybe you like bhakti yoga, like kind of traditional devotional yoga.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When I was in yoga teacher training, there was we did a 1 week retreat where all the teachers in training had to do a 75-minute thing towards the end of the course in a
Okay.
75-minute session. The only other male besides me in the as a student, um, like me, had kind of not much of a background with yoga until we became yoga teachers. I had off and on over the years gone to classes, and I always felt like if I wanted a workout, I'll just go to the gym because that was like, and I just felt like it was stupid. It was like you're calling yourself a yogi, but I'm doing a workout. Like you're putting me in postures that I'm finding a little bit uncomfortable.
yeah.
And not that that's the point. The point was that you're forcing me into them over and over, and
Right.
uh, and then there's a lot of dogma behind it, like shh, and I'm not very enlightened or spiritual because I'm not understanding what you're meaning by this and that, and like it just
Right.
felt like it was a lot of projection.
Hmm.
Um, and so I didn't really take to it. And then when I went to yoga teacher training, it was actually like happenstance. I really the plants that I had been working with the second time that I was in the Amazon told me you need to stop working with the plants, which I didn't do tons of anyway. They're like, you need to go out and experience ecstatic dance. You need to experience yoga. You
Oh,
need to experience joy because your thing in this lifetime is that you've never actually shared joy. You've experienced lots of joy. You've experienced mysticism and enlightenment in many other forms of bodies. But you've
hmm.
never learned how to share it. And so you need to get out there and do these things. And then, sure enough, that sounded like the worst medicine in the world to me. Worse than the way the plants could make me feel. So I ended up not looking for it, but then boom, this Tantra yoga class training ended up in my lap, and
Huh.
I learned a lot about it. But anyway, so the guy who was my classmate, when it came to the time for the 1 week retreat, he was the very last one, the day before the last day of the retreat. He was the
Okay.
last one, and he had us all out there on hot sand on a river area in the mountains of Idaho, and it was in August, so it was hot, and he had us all, males and females. There were like almost 20 people total, like on the sand without our mats. He made us walk barefoot, put our mats down as if we were going to do yoga in this one area, and then walk barefoot while he played the drum and chanted um, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he chanted that and drummed and made us march silently away a good 200 yards, to a different spot where we were barefoot in this hot blazing sand, and made us just do prostrations in the sand. And then he would just communicate this dialogue about our divine connections and our responsibilities to nature and to each other. And I was like, well, I just had like every part of me just flashed back to thousands of years ago when yoga was actually delivered, and this is all people did all day long.
That's
Yoga
interesting.
was yoga was not necessarily yoga; it was a lifestyle,
Right, right, right,
and
right.
not a 1 hour get your booty shake on,
Yes.
or be forced into, by somebody wearing Lululemon pants and their Gaiam freaking yoga mat, like forced into these postures and doing some quick breathings and then told they're a yogi. Like, this is totally different. This was real yoga.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's so different too than what we're like. If you say the word yoga, you would never go in that visual, right?
Not today. Well, okay, not in the US today, but I
Right.
wonder, you said it was very different when you did it in India.
It
Was it anything
was.
like that? What was it like in India?
Well, yoga was part of life in the sense that so I had, of course, like most people that go that are not from India, you get the stomach bug. So I
Mm,
saw a doctor, and the doctor told me, like, you need to change your nutrition and you need to do those positions. And those positions were similar to yoga
mm,
positions, I want to say. Like,
okay.
you need to focus on your breathing when you do those. And so for me, like, it was almost like a prescription, but it was a lifestyle, a way of
Mm,
living, because the doctors there, first of all, prescribe you a diet and
mhm.
an exercise. Well, I saw it as exercise. It was positions and breathing, but that was my first intro to it. And then there was a yoga session around the pool where everyone was, it was kind of more meditation, I guess, because
Mm.
you're right, like the yogi, or the person was, is a yogi a yoga teacher? Is that what you mean by yogi?
Yogi, yeah,
Yeah.
yogi is a yoga teacher.
So
Well,
the
maybe because yogis, a lot of the time, really traditionally, and you'll still see them in India, they don't necessarily teach it. They just live yoga
right,
24/7.
exactly. And but the person who was obviously the lead was reading something. Now I didn't had no idea what he was reading because it was probably in a language that I
Mm.
never heard before, and I don't even think it was Hindi.
Sanskrit, perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Sanskrit. And they were just, listening and sitting in a position and listening, and then they moved. Sometimes they were in a different position. There was a lot of breathing focus,
Mm.
and it seems to be lasting forever, like in the sense that I could watch them for an hour and a half, and they were still in the same position as
Mm-hmm.
like the hour before. It was
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very different. And I did join a class when I was there. It was similar to restorative yoga that we know here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a lot of like positioning and holding position and focusing on breathing, but it was not like when you said like we were forced into a position, like it was not like that. It was like, okay, if you feel you need to move your leg, move your leg. Like if you
Mm,
feel like your body needs this, go there. It was almost being mindful. It was kind of being in the present moment, and
mm,
allow your body to move in certain ways. And I like when you said that yoga dancing, I think you brought that up, like that fusion. So I've seen
mm.
that too in India. There's a lot of like movement into the yoga. Well, they called it yoga, but it was like dancing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't, as far as I know, I haven't seen that, so I'd be curious what that looks like. But maybe
Yeah.
I have, and
I
just haven't
think
associated it.
I think if you search yoga dance, you'll find something that is similar to what we were doing.
Hmm.
It's like it's almost like a mix of yoga and tai chi and dance.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, yeah. It was pretty cool. But Indian dance, so the Bollywood dance that most people
Mm-hmm.
are familiar with, is also from a cultural dance that they have, and every hand position represents
Mm-hmm.
something. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like telling a story. So they were using those mudra,
Mm-hmm.
which is also known in the world of yoga. So you have different mudras that represent different things. So
Right.
yeah, yeah,
And what did you feel like? Did you take anything specific or big for yourself after that
yeah.
experience?
That was in 2009. So that was a little bit before the time of like my awakening,
Mm.
or just it might have triggered my awakening too. I don't
Mm.
know because it kind of happened right after, but I remember feeling at peace. That's why for me, my first experience with yoga was that. And for me, it was so peaceful. It was
Mm.
like coming into my own, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Mm. Mm.
It was just beautiful. And I fell in love with India the
Mm-hmm.
first minute I was there. There's just that energy that I felt so connected the whole time I was there. So doing yoga was kind of an extension and an expansion of that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of
Mm-hmm.
being connected and in love and just yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that peace.
And well, to me, that's what yoga is. Like, I don't really ever feel like when I talk about yoga in the US or in the Western world that we're talking about the same thing at
Same thing.
all.
Yeah.
And to me, we're talking about maybe the experience that I described from my yoga teacher training with a classmate, or with the things you're describing, where it's
Yeah.
just like it's a lifestyle, and even then, to say it's a lifestyle still invokes in our minds maybe like I wear Tommy Bahama shorts and I go sip margaritas on the beach as often as I can. When I can't, I do some check-ins on social media. I, blah blah blah. That's not the lifestyle. That's not a lifestyle.
Right.
That's
Right.
just doing shit. But yoga is like you said, it's as much as a breath in and a breath out, and
Yeah.
and so everything you do is just an extension of that. What you eat, how often you eat, how little you eat, you know,
Right.
um, whatever, just everything that you do. And now, I mean, I think I'll agree with the one teacher that I mentioned earlier, Muji,
Mm-hmm.
that you see these yogis doing their asanas, their postures for hours on end up there. It doesn't mean they're not an ego. In fact, some of them are
Oh
doing
yeah.
it straight up because of their ego. It's cool that they can do that, but it doesn't mean that they've transcended anything.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And for me, a good yoga teacher is the one that say, listen to your body.
Mm,
Like that for me is the ultimate, like is the rule number one. If the teacher forced me into a position, it doesn't make any sense. Like all our body are
mm,
different, first of all.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so for me, that's like the rule number one. But and it's
mhm,
interesting because while you were talking, like I brought the word flow, and that's what it
mhm,
is. It's yoga is so part of the life flow.
mhm.
Do you feel like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's I don't really understand it any other way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I feel like when you say lifestyle, that's that flow, like that life flow that is connected to it.
Hmm. Um, yeah, and when I do yoga teaching, so now I have after my yoga teacher training was complete, I took I the first job that I got paid for teaching yoga was for a recreation center, a brand new recreation center up there, also in the mountains of Idaho. And I ended up being more of a water yoga teacher.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, finding the different asanas, the postures that you could do, and the breathing that you could do while in a pool. And interestingly enough,
Cool.
as I started doing it, it was an outdoor pool that was brand new. They hadn't had yet had a dome put over it, and and we were getting a lot of snow, and the temperatures were hitting 5 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking Fahrenheit,
Yeah.
so just above 0 Fahrenheit, freezing.
Yeah.
And right, so it was like it was very interesting, and it tended to
That
be
is interesting.
older women in their 50s, 60s, generally speaking. But it was really cool because it on the one hand, so when I teach yoga, it is very little postures. It's more about the breathing and more about the energy flow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
my connection is actually through Shakti, the divine feminine, and moving of Kundalini energy. Though I'm not a Kundalini yoga teacher, I won't say Kundalini yogi.
Hmm. Hmm.
If there's any of them listening, they're gonna not like the fact that I don't think they're yogis, but just because they went through Kundalini yoga under some guy named Yogi Bhajan, whatever. So what? That's like saying to me, like they're calling themselves a Kundalini yoga teachers, like priests and pastors
There's,
calling themselves a
yeah.
messenger of God that they don't have any connection with. I mean, for me, the Kundalini yoga, energy activated itself when I didn't even know what it was, and
Hmm.
I wasn't trying. Whatever. So like, I don't need to go to Kundalini yoga teacher training to teach their dogma to tell you what Kundalini
Right. 'Cause
energy
you've
is all about.
experienced it.
So that's just a little caveat to me. Again, like yoga is something that is kind of one of those, like, it's a wordplay. What, like there's a lot of idea of what it is and what it isn't. But Kundalini energy flow is what I incorporate into it.
Hmm.
Shakti energy, the female divine energy, is kind of the overseer
Yeah.
of the Kundalini energy and of the Tantra energy, as it turned out. And that is happenstance how I ended up in the Tantra yoga thing, not even knowing much about it. But so I teach that stuff. I really like the whole let's slow it down, let's slow everything down. And yeah, like if you can't do something, let's find something that you can do or sit it out or find a breathing that you can do. It's to me, it is really. And what I did find, even in water yoga, was these women who were having a hard time moving in general in their day-to-day life
Hmm.
were suddenly starting to find openings,
Opening.
and I didn't have to shove them into postures. It was just very little of
Yeah.
that. Really,
Yeah.
you just open the energy fields through love and through joy, and that starts to create the space for the body to be able to restore itself, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like one of my favorite yoga in the US is the restorative yoga because it has
Mm,
the elements I'm looking for
mm,
in a good yoga class. And,
mm,
and you're right. It's probably one of the slowest yoga, but for me it's the
mhm,
most rejuvenating one and the one that allow to bring a lot more flexibility into my body and openness. I like that you
mhm,
use the word open because not only does it open your physical body, it opens like your mental body because you become more aware of what's going on around you.
mhm,
You're more observing your body, you're observing what's surrounding. But it also opened your spiritual side because you start,
mm,
I know for me, and it's certainly different for others, but I start feeling the energy moving through my body. Like I can almost feel
mm,
the acupuncture, like, or the Chinese medicine
mhm,
energy, like pathways in my
mhm,
body. And
mhm,
I
mhm,
love that.
mm. That to me is the point of whether it's yoga or kundalini or reiki or
Yeah.
anything involving the body energy, which is great because this is a segue to the light body.
Yeah. Okay, good.
So I think light body, it sounds like you haven't heard of the word, but maybe as much. But light body, you can find it, for instance, in old Sufism. The Sufis
Yeah.
are the mystic sect of Islam.
I'm actually familiar with the Sufis because I studied Egyptian dance, so
Okay,
or Middle Eastern dance, I
Middle
should.
Eastern dance. Yeah, maybe like whirling dervishes or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Okay.
part of it. Yeah.
And Rumi, the poet that everybody seems to know, was a Sufi.
Oh.
Uh-huh. And the relationship with the Sufis, for the Sufis, is all about the relationship between the lover and the beloved. And maybe indicating that the human might be the lover and the non-human, the non-duality, God, whatever, is the beloved.
Hmm.
The quest for finding that oneness between the beloved, you know,
Mm.
and you as the lover.
Hmm. I
It's
like
very
that.
poetic. And so they talk about the light body, and I'm not as educated on how they talk about it, but it doesn't really matter to me because I've come across enough of it after I just started to feel the light body within myself.
Oh, cool.
Before I was even anywhere near doing yoga, uh, becoming a yoga teacher, the light body started to reveal itself to me as something that I hadn't even really heard of, but I, through Reiki sessions, which were far more than Reiki sessions at this point, were dialing me into this frequency of other and within myself while also doing sessions for other people while also working with a particular shamanic plant at
Yeah.
times and other times just through channeled spaces and just this feeling of activation through the whole body and what the light body I was told and shown through experience through personal like just feeling it kind of lifts you up even though physically I remained in a channeled meditative space, eyes closed, beyond the body, beyond the mind.
Hmm.
But I didn't levitate or anything like that, but it gives you the feeling when you connect with it of not being connected. So
Yeah.
therefore, you actually feel like you're floating or you're hovering,
Hmm.
and everything is super, super ecstatic. And I don't mean ecstatic like, wee! I'm talking
Right,
like
right, right.
ecstatic in a way that nobody actually knows until they get to it. So that's the light body, and the light body would be like accessed through things that you were just talking about, like when you start to feel like maybe the meridian lines in yourself and things
Right,
like
right.
that coming awake.
Hmm.
So and then if you've done energy work or received energy work, you have a possibility of starting to tap into the light body. Now the light body you can also think of as like Jesus, like when the pictures are depicted of Jesus with this like halo, white halo around him.
Yeah.
Same with Buddha, and that's because like that energy field that you're tapping into is more of a white frequency, white color, just a very like pristine, almost perfect, like the way we think of certain angelic or
Yeah.
ascended master, this white robe, white everything, just like levitational beyond the body kind of
Oh,
energy.
that makes sense to me. Mm.
So that is just not something you've heard of, then.
Well, yeah, it's just not a word that I heard, but now it makes a whole lot of sense. And actually experienced it the most when I am receiving a Reiki treatment is when I
Mm,
start levitating and feeling that
mm,
sense of
mm,
being up there and yeah and I like that it's light body also as being like not heavy, like I feel so
mhm,
light also,
mhm, mhm,
like weightless,
mhm,
and I do like I know what you mean by ecstatic because it's like yeah, it's hard to explain. It's
mhm,
almost like you're amazed by everything,
mhm,
but yet
mhm,
you don't have the intense physical emotion
mhm,
of it. It's just like, and again, it's like that ultimate peaceful emotion. It
mhm,
goes back to that sense of peace and security, and yet like And I remember describing that. I think it was in the void when I experienced the void. It's
Mm.
a similar sense of feeling connected to so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Everything becomes I can't remember I can't recall the word that I want to use, but everything becomes like so expanded. That's the
Mm-hmm.
easiest way I can explain it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what else you could say because unless you experience it, you don't have words. And even when you
It's
do experience
hard.
it, you
Yeah.
don't have words.
Yeah.
One is a thought, and the other is like, there it is. You're in it. You're swimming
Right.
in it. And it is this kind of, it's a Latin word, in perpetua or something like that. It's like this eternity,
Yeah.
this like permanent,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it's non-spatial.
No,
There's no time.
no, no, there's no time. You could be like in there in 30 seconds
Uh
and
huh.
come back and you're like, it's only been 30 seconds. Like really? It felt like it
Mm-hmm.
was 3 hours.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Or the opposite. Mm.
Yeah.
There's no sense to it.
There
That's so
isn't. There's no sense, but there is. It's just that the mind. This I think this proves that the mind is
right. I meant
ultimately
there's
stupid
no
because
logic too. Yeah.
because the mind has this need for structure and things like that to
Mhm.
ground you to the human reality.
Right.
But the human reality is not the reality.
No.
When you're in that light body state, you understand what reality is, and it's actually everything is almost upside down compared to what the mind has
Yeah.
been formulated to construct as a belief system.
Right. Right. That's so true. That's so true. Yeah. I guess like the best way to describe it is like by doing a sound and it would be like ah
Mm-hmm.
wow. That
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's
So
how
then, like with that, what would do you think then, or do you feel what would how would you even equate yoga, for instance, to
yeah.
the light body? Is would you say the light body is the destination then of yoga?
I think it's a possibility, absolutely. I, I I think for me it is the ultimate outcome that I
Mm-hmm.
seek in yoga. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it is for everyone, but you can
Mm-hmm.
definitely get there with yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But not the yoga that, like, I don't think I've ever been in that space in a yoga class because there's too much distraction and you don't feel safe. There's no way you can feel safe in a space with a ton of strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I shouldn't say there's no way. I'm sure people
Mm-hmm.
find safety in that, but
Mm-hmm.
your class is done after an hour. So when you're finally reaching that space during Shavasana, for
Mm-hmm.
example, at the end of the class, it's kind of cut short because it's only 15 minutes.
Right. Right.
So the logic mind is already thinking, okay, I need to go do the grocery. I need to do this and that and that. So for me, yoga is a personal practice. It's something I do at home
Mm-hmm.
and I can reach out that state, I guess, way more easily than in a
Mm-hmm.
class aspect.
When I was in my yoga teacher training, the yoga teacher would come around at times like some yoga teachers choose to do this and some don't, but like during a particular asana or during shavasana, like come around and do like hand placements on you, like as if they're doing Reiki on you. And I would be like, this one time, it was often that she would do this, and like she would totally like battle whatever I was doing with my energy. And I had already expressed to her that I was already working very deeply with Kundalini and Shakti energies.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
and she would come and like for instance like jab her fingers into my hand, which would totally shock my
Energy field?
energy field and like try and slam me. I mean, her projection was so
Interesting.
strong, try and slam me back into the earth. Now, on one hand, you could laugh about it because if I was truly operating in the light body 100%, it would do nothing to me, but other than oh, like
Yeah.
a mosquito just landed on me. Okay,
Right, right, right.
but I wasn't 100% there. I was really just like going in and out of it, and so her doing that
Hmm.
was combative, you know,
Yeah.
and she even like took this sort of narcissistic pride in telling me like after that one particular time, especially with my hand, like, oh, I saw your hand was doing this thing, so I decided I needed to ground you, and so I,
I
and she,
decided.
yeah, well, and she was, well, anyway, as it comes out, she's
That's interesting.
she's headed for some real issues because her teachers in Thailand are under a lot of scrutiny at this point, and she carries on a lot of their
Approach.
approach. Mm.
Mm.
So anyway, but yeah, so like it's sort of like almost like the people who think they're out there are
Yeah.
really, really like put off and I think even challenged by those who are like working with those energies and and so this is like a very human thing. Like if you think that you're going to leave this realm and you're going to go off when I'm supposed to be the master, I'm going to make sure that I do my best to cancel it out for you.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of that too, and intentional like kind of obstruction of getting into our light body. And I,
Yeah.
when I talk about light body, it's important for me to want to talk about light body because it's a thing that should be experienced, and it should not be considered a thing that is not what we're supposed to do. We don't need
Right.
to be trying to shove people down into the illusion over and over again if people are starting to experience these light body things through yoga, through Reiki, through awakening of any kind. Like, let's help each other get there. Let's not like
Yeah.
ground each other because that's the problem is we're all in this misery together and misery loves company. We need to stop. We need to break that up.
Yeah.
And and to me, like that leads into the other word that I had brought in here. Well, two words. I think you can almost tie them together in certain ways, like light beings and star seeds.
Yes. Talk to me about that.
So light be you know, really when you start talking light beings, you start talking now there's no reason to even start to go into a lot of description. So basically though, if you get into the light body and you're there a lot more than you're not. And and if you're there permanently,
Hmm.
then you are really a light being.
Mm.
And so I think I feel like this flow is like saying the progression of everything is taking us to that evolutionary place where we are capable of being our highest light being self and our physical human self all at one time.
Hmm.
And we've had masters who've done it. We do consider like things like Christ and Buddha, Krishna, and maybe some others that don't have names quite as popular as having been able to do this, but basically to transcend the human experience while still being in a body.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I
But
understand what you're saying.
but we don't know all the things that they know
All right.
unless we start to experience them
Hmm.
ourselves.
Hmm.
And that's the problem. You can't be Christ, you can't be Buddha, you can't be Krishna and teach what you know because until the human that is trying to perceive it understands it through experience,
Hmm.
all we can do is like kind of speculate, and then we start to spread things that are half-assed at best, like the Bible or the Torah or the Quran. Like they don't, they're talking about these things, but they're chopping out a lot of important information, sometimes intentionally, and
Yeah.
sometimes like just because they can't even in the same language translate with the person who is trying to
To
communicate the light body
say. Yeah.
experience
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if it's actually written the way it's supposed to be written, but we're not awakening to
enough
the
to.
message. Mm. But yeah, whatever
Again, like
it is, I know exactly what you're saying.
I
It's
don't. Who's articulate enough to put these frequencies into words anyway?
yeah,
Because they have no
exactly.
words.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's so
So
true.
so light beings, a lot of people I think then would would probably have a relation to light beings as ascended masters, as archangels. You
Mhm.
could even say fairies, or you could just say angels. You could say aliens,
Mhm.
things that are of higher frequencies than the human
Right.
frequency, you know, other dimensional things like that. So light beings, the more, and I guess maybe why that word was running through me as much as anything else was because the goal, I do know the goal of evolution, whether we do it in this body that we're in right now or multiple other life, however we do it, but the goal of evolution, as far as the earth is concerned, is to get the human form into a place where it can perceive and act from the same place as these other frequency energy bodies.
Yes. Yeah.
And one way we can describe them is light bodies,
Right.
or I'm sorry, light beings.
And I like how that connects to my definition of altruism, because it is that connection with other people, that capacity to vibrate at that level as a group.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm sure when you're around those light beings, and I'm sure there is some that I see every day in my life that are light beings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they exist, they're around
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
um I like, those are the people that we probably perceive as extremely altruistic, extremely compassionate, peaceful too, because I I want to think that individuals who are light beings have a frequency of a higher level, which
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're around them, bring peace into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I don't know. Because would that be true? Because really, to my perception, a
Yeah,
light being, an ascended master,
yeah.
the single out maybe a category that probably doesn't really exist beyond the human form anyway, but like maybe a frequency of ascended master is would be to me a, be a person who has gone through all the human experiences and then graduated
Right.
through
Doesn't need to
through a
come back on Earth.
right, well, or maybe how
Mm.
many of us are ascended masters? We just don't know it,
Mm.
right?
True.
So, but like this sort of like assimilation of all the lessons
Yeah.
that the earth can offer, and then bringing them into oneness.
Yeah.
So really, when you think about an ascended master, you should be able to comprehend that there's nothing that they don't understand through personal experience on
Hmm.
the earth, whether it was being the rapist or the rapee, you know.
Right.
So they're everything. They're everything. They're everything that the earth could offer.
Mm-hmm.
So in my comprehension of it, my connection to Ascended Master realms, which is actually getting pretty strong this year and stronger as I go, there's no reason to believe that they only cause you peace within, you know,
Hmm.
um, because because a real Ascended Master will be trying to get every human to evolve in
To
whichever
grow.
way it takes that person to evolve. And some people need to be shocked. Some people need to be coddled,
Yeah.
or or maybe there's just an overlapping. Sometimes you need to be shocked. Sometimes you need to be coddled. Sometimes just the whole gamut. But an
Right.
Ascended Master's role, even if they're not like intentionally beaming, like, oh, this person needs me. This and there's a I meet a lot of people like that. Oh, this person needs me, and they need me to do this. Well, that's not really how it
Right.
works. It's just like the presence, the activation of the energy that's oneness within the being, even if they're, especially if they're in a human form, would just automatically. Well, and then when you start to think about it, well, who isn't doing that to each other? So who is and who isn't the ascended master?
Yeah. 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 I'm just thinking, the person who shot me the most was Win Walker.
Ah,
Are you like being?
well, so then the other word that hit me was starseed,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and so
I'm not familiar
starseed
though.
would be somebody like my twin flame Allison, who resonates with Andromeda Galaxy, for instance.
Who? What? Sorry.
resonates more with Andromeda Galaxy,
Okay.
which even scientists know at this point that in the human evolution of time and space, in a few billion years or something, or a billion years or whatever, that the Milky Way, that the Earth galaxy is within, is going to collide with the Andromeda Galaxy.
Okay.
So that's already known.
Mm-hmm.
Those two are almost like neighbors, the two galaxies. So
Okay.
Andromeda we know exists. Now, Allison is one of many who resonate with that frequency, and it almost as if they don't really know what to do because they don't really know how many of them there are on the planet, and so when they meet each other, there's almost this like crying homecoming because they're like, oh my god, there's somebody else who understands me. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people will talk about Pleiadian, a lot of people will talk about Orion or Sirian. Um, there's Arcturian, all the I mean the I don't know,
Okay.
but anyway, so we call these energies star seeds because their origin. Well, okay, so everybody's all origin of all matter of all time, everything is from source or whatever you want to call that word. To me, God is more related to our universe around the solar system, I should say.
Okay.
But beyond that is source, just this like everything and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not love. It's not anti-love. It's not matter. It's not anti-matter. It's
It
just
just
like
is.
it just is. So whenever anything got created multidimensionally from there, energy sort of kind of formulate in star systems and planets and galaxies and so, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so in each one of these, so then these energies went out and like some people, as I understand it, some energies are really like Earth is their first planet. Like their energy came from source, as I describe it, and straight to Earth, and this is the first incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
But then we all have got some kind of an origin, or at least a place where our soul, our primary energy source, has spent a majority of its like learning, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. And so like my twin flame Allison, a lot of hers has been Andromeda, but she's also had a couple near misses with Earth. Like her energy supposedly helped create a certain thing in the Mayan era, in their early pyramids and their early forecasting of 2012.
Okay.
And and then like I know people out here in Asheville, North Carolina, there's a lot of Pleiadian energy, and they have a particular set of like energy that they carry. And so I just a lot of people like more and more people are talking about starseeds,
Okay.
and I guess like since you don't really have a resonance with it, at least an understanding of it yet, like I guess the reason people are talking about it is because like for Allison, she feels her purpose here is to bring a light here because the Earth and our solar, our Milky Way galaxy
Mm-hmm.
is merging with the Andromeda galaxy.
Right.
So there's going to be an overlap. There's going to be a merger, not in the lifetime of the bodies that we see now, but there's going to be an overlap. So it would make sense then that there's already like a merging of energies going on. People
Gotcha.
coming, those energies coming into human form, so we can all, so one, they can have the experience of what it's like to be here at
Mm-hmm.
this time in space, but two, for us as humans to start to go, whoa, that's a different frequency. I haven't seen that around before. That's a different kind of a persona. That's a different, whatever, however we perceive it, it's different. And it's a different kind of mission. It's a different sort of like, it brings a lot of change to the earth that the earth has been, it gets the earth out of where it's been stuck for thousands
Mm-hmm.
of years
Mm-hmm.
for growth, for evolution.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting.
so if I guess for me, if I had to like tie in all the words that ran through me in my meditation, including peace, like these all have kind of a, a sequence of events or some kind of a play into like
Yeah.
more kind of like an evolutionary flow from
Yeah.
where the earth has been to the where the earth is going, and then maybe different vehicles like yoga of helping establish that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the way you present it, yeah, would come from starseed and then light being, and then like it just go into that space. Light
Mm.
body is definitely the experience. I'm pretty sure that brings us closer to starseeds or to other
Mm-hmm.
frequencies across the universe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's what connects us all. So, yeah, I can see that. I understand what you're saying.
And I feel like what you're saying when you bring up altruism, why altruism has any relevance is because through altruistic acts, through actually wanting and feeling the want for connectivity, for oneness, for kindness, because
Yeah.
that's the frequency that we change within ourselves. And we have
Yeah.
to do it ourselves. It's all choice.
Hmm.
That's what starts to evolve us higher and higher and higher in our journey
Hmm.
through the earth plane, through the earth experience. And that's another reason why other planetary beings and other light beings and everything come to the earth is to learn what it's like to have such duality that we're actually experiencing hate and
Yeah.
all sorts of mean things and
Right.
traumas to be able to experience the evolution, the journey from those dimensions, from those frequencies into altruistic states, where those
Yeah.
altruistic states do actually give us access to parts of our light body that get us higher in our evolutionary experience.
Right. I feel like altruism is probably the lowest of the vibration in the sense of like what is accessible easily in the human body, the human experience,
Mm.
what is attainable or tangible,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, in terms of feelings and in terms of um, giving back to the others and connecting with others. I feel like that is something that anyone can do at any time.
Mm.
Not that everyone can access light body, but it's
Mm-hmm.
between altruism and light body. I think altruism is probably the lowest frequency and the most accessible to the individual who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
believe in the spiritual aspect
Mm.
or will open them up to that aspect of them. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like altruism is a very um, aspect that is connected to the physical body, connected to the
Mm-hmm.
physical realm,
Mm. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
like the bottom of the
Mm-hmm.
pyramid. Like it can almost start there and move yourself up into the other ones.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's like a conversation that's been across my radar the last 24 hours or so is like going into the heart space or choosing to be in the heart, that both will still get you that peaceful outcome.
Yeah, yeah,
And what I know is that if you can't do it through energy, then yes, through action.
right.
Right. Because if you do it through energy, you experience all the shifts and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, you vibrate higher. Like it's like yay, like
Right.
everything becomes accessible.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, you're right. Like people who don't feel those things shouldn't feel like, oh hell, like what do I do? Because
Right.
as long as you're acting truly kind, both to yourself and to others around you,
Yes.
then you're doing the exact same thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
on the physical realm, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. It will allow you to vibrate at a certain frequency. Yeah, absolutely.
Because yeah, you can remain like even in Hinduism, you can be in theory you could be an atheist and still be Hindu. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to believe in deities
No, exactly.
because it's not about the deities. The deities
It's a
are
way of
different.
living.
Right, exactly. They're different ways of being.
Yeah, yeah. It would be like for people in America, the easiest way to relate, it would be like saying walking is exercise, so is running a marathon,
Mm,
right?
mm, mm-hmm,
Both people are exercising, the
mm,
outcome are pretty much the same. I mean, in general, like you're staying active.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But one is like a higher frequency than the other, or intensity.
And yeah, I mean, and that's still subjective. Like, yeah,
It is, yeah.
because you know, a person who runs a 7-hour marathon is practically walking it.
Right, but that's the person who is now moving into that space of a way of living.
Mm,
It's the same for you and I. We can be altruistic
mm,
and feel the light body probably when we
mm-hmm,
do it,
mm.
because we have experienced the light body. We have gone, like, we can now bring it into our regular life.
Well, and this would be probably scary to a lot of people, but if I can maintain my light body frequency and I can go knock somebody out, as long as I maintain that frequency, I'll still be in the light body. If I
Right,
start to get into my head and start to get into fear or anger,
right.
any any of the things that basically, that we say, like the seven deadly sins or the Ten Commandments, if I start to get into like lust or passion or whatever, those things actually do start to tank the light body. So
Mm.
so what I tell people is that the Ten Commandments or the seven deadly sins, the sins in general, like these things aren't really sins. They're just things that stop you. I would actually put them more in the term of, like, I don't know what Latin sin word was, but in Spanish, when you say sin, S-I-N, you're saying without. So,
Without.
right, yeah. So if you're
Oh,
saying sin, you're saying without in Spanish. And so to me, it would be that you're without the energy that it takes to be able to sustain your light body. And so
oh, yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I would
I know
interpret.
what you're
That's what I would say is, like, with those frequencies of desire, lust, passion,
saying. Hmm.
whatever, fear, hate, those things stop you from being in that light body, and therefore they stop you
Yeah.
from that divine connection through the crown chakra, which takes you into the light body.
Right. And when we started talking about altruism, you said, is there altruism in capitalism? And going back to that, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like capitalism is doing that. It's blocking us from accessing the light body,
Hmm.
because it's telling us that everything outside of us is what we want and need.
Oh, I don't think that's capitalism. You're talking about materialism, though.
Well, capitalism, isn't it like having an economy, like having.
Mm. Yeah, but it's the attachment to materialism that causes what you're talking about. It's not capitalism
So
itself. That's
how do you describe capitalism then?
capitalism is basically the free growth of being able to establish, to work within an economy that's fair, and to play in it however you want. That's just play.
Oh, that's how you see it. Okay, that's interesting. For me, capitalism is the representation of going to work, having an economy, having like workers, having unions, having like a contribution to the world. So
So if I'm a hippie hate capitalist artisan who's out there selling my crafts for money, I'm not capitalist.
wait, say that again?
If I'm an anti-capitalist hippie liberal
Yeah.
out there selling, making artisan work like jewelry and stuff and selling it for money, am I not a capitalist?
It depends. It depends on the intention. It depends if you're paying tax. It depends.
Why? You're creating a product in order to make money, and whatever you do with the money is your choice.
I'm not sure I'm following you, but that's okay.
What I'm saying is capitalism is just all about, like, the I can choose what I want to do to make money. I mean,
Right.
really, there's
Okay.
lots of ways you could describe it, but when it comes down to it, it's I choose what I want to do in order to make money.
Okay.
If you're not with capitalism, then you're not. Then there's no reason for you to make money. Then just be communal,
Okay.
where there is no in anything. There's just an exchange of goods for the basic needs, which is, like, for some people, some people want lodging and some people don't. Some people just sleep under the stars.
Okay.
Most people want to eat. So most people need to be able, now unless they grow their own food completely, that, like, again, like there's people who live off grid and are completely out of it. But once you're really, really completely out of it and you're not paying taxes and all that stuff, you're probably at that point maybe not living a capitalistic life. But if you're doing something that's making money, whether it's work or selling wares, and it's still a capitalist.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't really, I think, I mean, I really, when it comes down to it, everybody probably has a different definition of it. And to me, you asked a particular question, and to me, that question would really come back down to, well, is capitalism altruistic? That's in the eye of the beholder. But when we're talking about communal living, there's just a free exchange of energy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right. I guess my definition of capitalism is different. That's all. And that's okay. Because I see it with the society aspect. So.
But okay. So what, like, for the sake of this podcast then,
Yeah.
So what would be important in you for a takeaway then for people, if you're saying that altruism would be the portal to access higher dimensions?
I think it's just yeah. I think it's just accessible. Most people are capable of altruism at this moment right now. Like you don't have to have any special skill or any special knowledge to do it, or special experience. I guess that was my point.
All right. So basically, there's almost like there's like a no point to evolution or to all of this.
No, I think we're not understanding ourselves, but that's okay. No, yeah. I'm sorry. That's what happened when we record late in the evening. My mind doesn't work as but yeah, I just want people to have hope that they can, if they don't know what we're talking about in terms of the light body, you can enter the space of altruism, and that's the beginning. And like I said, it's the bottom of the pyramid. So there is a growth, there is evolution. That this is just the first step to it. And everything that we talked about today is that it feels like it's moving us up there. And the last piece you talked about was the star seeds, which for me is that ultimate evolution. If it's going to happen in the future, and that energy is coming on Earth, I think we're getting into that vibration and moving into that space of having the qualities or whatever it is that's the star seeds people are bringing to the Earth. Mm-hmm.
So what would we pick as a word for all this?
I don't know. At the beginning we said it's episode 1 of the
season 2
season. So maybe now the word will come to us at the end of the podcast. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. So maybe we'll just starting conversation and get the word at the end. But for me, like everything you brought forward definitely have resonance with peace, but I agree. I don't think it's peace, the word. Yeah.
It makes me think of gumbo.
What's that?
Like if you go like to New Orleans, like a kind of a bunch of stuff thrown together into
the
a meal,
food,
or
you mean?
Right, a bunch of ingredients thrown together into
all
one
together.
Meal.
I love it. That's so true. Yeah. I guess listeners will have to look at the title of this podcast because it might come later. But
It's true.
yeah, I feel like we've touched so many things that goes to the evolution, but I also like the flow aspect of it. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a, energy is a bunch of vibration together. So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like the energy flow feels like
Mm.
a good word for this, but I don't
Well,
know.
that was the word that hit me the strongest before we recorded.
Yeah.
But even then, it was like, it might not be the right word to start off with, because if it doesn't flow, then we can't use flow.
You're funny. I think it flowed pretty well. I think in hindsight, I can see the buildup.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think how I would end this whole thing
Yeah.
would be to say that none of it matters. And it doesn't matter if we agree on anything. And it doesn't matter if we want to connect the star seeds. It doesn't matter if we want to have a Reiki session. It
I
doesn't
have the
matter if we
word.
want to do yoga. None of it actually matters, because in the end, it's all experience.
You know
What's the
what's the
word?
word? It's journey.
Journey. All right.
We went through a journey, and
There you
that's
go.
why it doesn't matter if we agreed or not, or like if you don't understand what we're saying, because it's what you're experiencing out of it, right?
Right.
The outcome doesn't matter.
Right, because we shouldn't be judged based off of our beliefs or any of our outcomes, and ultimately that would tie into peace. Like, peace
Yeah.
really is like, we don't have to believe in each other's ways, but if we
Right.
believe in each other as at least human citizens,
Yeah.
and more if we connect to light bodies, if we
Right.
believe in more of our cosmic selves, if we connect to that, then then it doesn't matter what. If we still can believe in something common that drives us all, that will lead to a peaceful outcome.
Exactly. I don't know. Journey still doesn't ring. What about resonance?
Mm. Resonance was a word I had thought of. Flow was felt stronger. I don't know.
Okay.
We might just have to close this one out, and yeah, by the time anybody's listening to it, they'll be like, "Oh, that's the word." Well, I
Or
mean, they'll already.
maybe it's the episode with no name.
I know the X Files.
Yes. I love it. That's funny. Yeah. We'll let one of the listeners entitle it. Send us your title.
There
Yeah.
we go.
That would be
Perfect.
cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Maybe
And
somebody
then
will listen and give us a title, and then we can slap it on after.
yeah, and then we'll update it after and we'll put it out there. That would be cool
That'd be perfect.
for the launch of season 2.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I want to thank all our listeners who
Yeah.
have stood all along this journey with us. It's kind of unreal to think it's season 2,
Mm.
and yesterday, just overnight, we got like 20 extra listeners, or
Mm.
views I should say, and it was all from Europe. So
How
thank you
cool.
for connecting with us. I think we had
Yeah.
people from Poland, the
Wow.
UK. We had someone
So it wasn't
calling.
just one. It was like
I'm
20
not
overnight
sure.
from
It might be
multiple
one
places.
person that just went through our whole season 1. But
But
shout out.
20 listens, we only had 17. So
Yeah,
plus, it sounds like they would have been like on like a journey between multiple countries, listening to different.
it's true. Yeah. And we had someone from Sweden too that's been following us since the beginning. So
Oh,
thank
how
you for that.
cool.
We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Love to
Yeah.
hear from you also. We are on Facebook, we're on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. We also have email that you can connect with us. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's synergyourjourney@gmail.com, right?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
We
So
have.
I know emails are probably getting old, but
Mm.
I'm from the 80s and emails are still a thing.
Well, at least it's not Yahoo or AOL
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, well, that's funny.
or Microsoft.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh, yeah, I still remember MIRC, if anyone knows MIRC out there. But anyway, the original chat room.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
No, I don't remember any of that.
Anyway, all that to say, Thank you. We really
Yeah.
appreciate your support, and I hope you'll continue this journey with us.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, see you next time.
Okay. Good night.